What's going on, everybody? Let's Talk Jets Radio. Quick late night, early morning video here, talking Jets schedule, which was released yesterday evening, and not a whole lot of overreactions or crazy takes from me. I generally don't get into the win-loss predictions in May when we don't even know exactly what the roster is going to look like and who's going to be healthy week to week, and when you're going to catch teams at the right moment. There's just there's so much that you really don't know. On the surface, I've said for a while, I feel like the roster on paper looks like it's a 6-7 win roster. Obviously, a lot depending on the coaching staff and what you get out of the quarterback. But when you start looking at week to week, and again, I know it's so early, it's so crazy to try to overanalyze these matchups, but week to week, the schedule doesn't look too crazy, and it doesn't appear like there's a lot of games where you really write off initially and say, all right, the Jets really have no chance here. If you're going to put that label maybe on two games, it's at Cincinnati, at Baltimore, maybe at Buffalo, but that's also the last game of the year. Who knows if Buffalo, if they have the number one seed or the division clinched already, or if they're just not playing for anything. So obviously there's so much that's unknown. Um, but when you also really break it down, as far as strength of schedule, Jets are middle of the pack in the NFL right now. Compared to other teams, so nothing really crazy. They don't have any West Coast trips either, although they do have the trip to London, which replaces one of their home games. So instead of 9 home games, 8 road games, it's essentially 8 home, 8 road, and the one neutral site. Although Jet fans usually turn out pretty well in London. So there's nothing that I'm looking at saying, oh my God, the NFL screwed us over, or the schedule is crazy this year. A lot of matchups that the Jets should definitely compete in, and even the first 2 games that some people are complaining about, back-to-back home games to start the year. I don't really have an issue with it. Yes, it's the Steelers and Bills. I do have not really an issue, but it's obviously annoying, I guess, that the NFL decides to do the Steelers week one, where it's just going to be constant, nonstop talk about Aaron Rodgers in the last 2 years, assuming he obviously ends up signing there. Would probably much rather anybody else on the schedule to start the year, although at least you get it out of the way and then you don't have to deal with it anymore. Certainly a good test for Aaron Glenn early on, just dealing with the media and and just all the outside distractions and all the outside noise, and just making sure that you're keeping everything about football, which is something that I think he will do very well. And then you get the Bills, obviously, week 2 at home, where maybe you're catching them before they really catch their groove. Who knows? But I don't really have an issue with that at all to start the year. Then you do have the Bucks and the Dolphins back to back on the road. Generally, I don't like going out to Florida in September, but the Bucks certainly a winnable game in week 3, and then the Dolphins Monday night. So weather probably not as much of a factor there. Both winnable games in my opinion. Do I expect to win both? Probably not. But no reason that the Jets can't start the year 2-2. Maybe you take advantage of the crowd noise in the home opener and upset the Steelers. Don't expect to really beat Buffalo, although usually at home the Jets can find a way to give Allen some problems there. But after the first 4, you have 3 straight home games with the Cowboys, and then the Broncos technically being a home game at London, and then the Panthers. No reason to think the Jets maybe can't steal 2 out of 3 there. Again, the Cowboys certainly should be improved this year. Obviously, they have the addition of Pickens and a healthy Dak, but we'll see what happens with that one. The Broncos, maybe it's a sophomore slump for Knicks, and then the Panthers certainly a winnable game there. So if you can find a way to 2-3, or I'm sorry, 2 out of 3 in those 3 home games, and you go 2-2 to start, you're sitting at 4-3. Maybe you could start to make a little magic happen. You get some feel good vibes in that locker room. But things do get a little bit more challenging, I think, after that, where you have the Bengals on the road right before your bye week. You follow the bye week with the Browns, which should be a winnable game. You have 2 weeks to get ready for it at home. But then back-to-back games on the road at New England, Thursday night, short rest. And then the Steelers, so you have the extra time to get ready. I'm sorry, not the Steelers, the Ravens. So you have extra time to get ready for that one. 10 days to prepare, but at Baltimore, Jets are going to need all the time they can to get ready for that one. Probably the toughest game that the Jets have on the schedule this year. But they do follow that up with back-to-back home games with the Falcons and the Dolphins. And then they finish it up 3 or 4 on the road at Jacksonville, at New Orleans, home for the Patriots, and then at Buffalo to close it out, where again, maybe the Bills aren't playing for anything, who knows. But again, nothing that really stands out that says, oh my God, the Jets can't find a way to, be competitive in a majority of these football games. Do I expect to win in Baltimore? No. Do I expect to win in Cincinnati? Probably not. Do I expect to win at Buffalo? Probably not. At Miami, at New England should be tough, but I don't see any reason that the Jets can't compete in those games. But really, everything depends on, again, what you're getting out of the coaching staff, the game plan, the execution. Are the players buying in? What you're getting out of your quarterback? Is the offensive line healthy? If you're getting above average quarterback play and you have a healthy offensive line where you have a strong ground game and coaching staff is competent, you're playing good defense, there's no reason to think that almost all these games, other than the three I listed, maybe being the Ravens, Bengals, and Bills all on the road, there's no reason to think all other 14 games the Jets can't be competitive. I'm not saying they're going to win all of them, obviously, but again, the Saints, Patriots, Jaguars, Dolphins, Falcons, Browns, Panthers, Broncos, Cowboys, Bucks, Steelers, Jets should be able to compete with these teams if they have a competent coaching staff and if they have above average quarterback play. So a lot that we don't know about the Jets and what this team is going to look like, what their identity is going to be. But on paper, again, I still think it's a 7-win roster maybe at best. But week to week, matchup to matchup, and again, I know it's very early. We don't know when we're going to catch these teams, if we're going to be healthy, if they're going to be healthy, a lot of unknowns. But on paper, right now, week to week, you can make a case. I don't want to say it. You can make a case maybe the Jets win 9-10 games. Talk to you guys later.